By now, Fallout 76 has been out for about a month, and plenty of people have jumped into the West Virginia's irradiated paradise to have a look around. I had the pleasure of playing the beta in early November, and I'm tempted to jump back in myself. Unfortunately, Red Dead 2 still has its claws in me, so I may be a little late to the party, but I can still share my thoughts on what I thought of the beta. There's been a lot of talk surrounding Fallout 76 following the beta, and its release has been fairly plagued with problems. A lot of people are excited at the concept of an online Fallout game, as I was when it was announced. However, following the beta and the game's release, a lot of the opinions online seem to suggest that 76 wasn't as well thought out as it could have been. But I'll get to that shortly. Let's start out with how it looks. Fallout 76 is set in the year 2102, 25 years after the bombs dropped that caused the world to become this apocalyptic nightmare. More recent Fallout games have taken place around 200 years after the apocalypse, and have always featured a very barren setting devoid of colour. I often think that doing it that way doesn't give you a chance to show off what your console can do, and I imagine that PC players are the same. Fallout 76, on the other hand, is a vibrant world full of colour. There's life teeming all around you, bubbling streams, trees that still cling to life showing off their leaves. It's a truly beautiful landscape, and it's easy to get distracted by it when you're halfway to an objective. The teeming life around you, however, is one of the major sticking points for a lot of players. While there are hordes of creatures around you, most of them aggressive, the game was marketed from a very early stage as having no other human NPCs present in the game. Todd Howard, Bethesda's director, even announced it as a major selling point when the game was previewed at E3. This time around, all of the quests and lore are delivered by either holotape, reading documents, or various robots. Previous Fallout games have tried to use this method for single quests, which provides a bit of variety, but it doesn't feel like the right way to do it for the entire story. One of the major things I loved about previous Fallout games was walking into settlements to hand in missions, sell loot, or just talk to the residents. This just feels like a huge step in the wrong direction. Despite the vast change in the storytelling, the game does borrow quite heavily from Fallout 4 from 3 years ago. The settlement building system is back, albeit expanded, and far more integral to the game, but it was far from the most exciting part of Fallout 4. However, your camp only persists while you're online, so you can't lose your progress while offline, which is encouraging. VATS returns, as you'd expect, but fails to really work in a multiplayer setting. VATS no longer freezes or even slows combat, as it would play havoc with other people's experience. Instead, VATS just seems to be a glorified auto-aim, and a fairly poor one at that. When you enter VATS, you get a percentage to hit the enemy in real time, but the percentage seems to change massively at random with little input from the environment. It does at least make combat a little easier to deal with when you're being swarmed by enemies. Fast travel also returns, although at a cost of bottle caps, the in-game currency, depending on your distance from your destination. Fast travel to your camp and vault, however, are always free. There are some new features here though that are interesting to interact with. Hunger and thirst both need managing now, or you'll see a negative impact in your stats. However, you'll need to be careful when taking care of these, as any fresh food will spoil, and eating it, along with drinking water that hasn't been purified, can infect you with a variety of diseases, which can apply a variety of buffs or debuffs to your character. These diseases can be a nightmare to get rid of, so you need to think twice before you risk putting that spoiled piece of fruit in your mouth with a 3% chance of disease. In truth, the game feels like a Fallout 4 rehash with an online mod attached, something modders have been doing with Fallout 4 on PC for some time now. Thankfully, all loot boxes are instants, so if another player beats you to your location, they can't steal all the valuable goodies hiding away in containers. However, the same cannot be said for your own loot on death. Even if you die to an NPC, your gear all appears in an innocuous paper bag and is immediately able to be looted by other players. Obviously, this could make for some very tense partnerships online, where one player dies and the other decides to make a grab for his dropped gear. The PvP aspect of the game seems to be designed, thankfully, to discourage griefing. Other players can shoot at you until the cows come home and only do minimal damage. However, as soon as you fight back, damage becomes normalised, and you're back on an even playing field. Overall, Fallout 76 strikes me as a bit of a No Man's Sky sort of release, with a lot being promised in its build-up. There was a lot of hype in the build-up to release, and rightly so. I'll admit that I was caught up in it, although following the beta I did cancel my pre-order. I think that, like No Man's Sky, it's going to take some substantial updates to put right the problems before they can even think about new content. At time of writing, the game has already had multiple updates to fix bugs, and there's plenty of opinions online that say it's still far from fixed. Personally, I have since bought the game in the last couple of days as it was on sale, though I have yet to play it. I'm hoping the updates will have at least made it playable, and that Bethesda learns from these problems and puts more effort into future updates and releases. Well, those are my thoughts on what Fallout is looking like at the moment. I think Bethesda is clever enough to know that they need to fix these issues, so I have faith that they can turn this into a decent experience. However, they do need to learn from their mistakes and take far more care in future updates to make sure that they don't let their player base get too despondent. If you've enjoyed this video and want to see more, please consider subscribing to see more content that's coming soon. I'd also love to hear your thoughts on the game, so please comment or let me know what you thought on Twitter. Keep an eye out for more content coming shortly, and I'll see you soon.